Today I have another program to go through with you. This program is called Aesthetic Print. Now Aesthetic Print, here's a little final edition of what it will look like. Aesthetic Print is something which takes three strings and then prints them out, and it's going to print them out just like this. I'm going to run the program. Alright. And it's going to print it out with a space in between each of the letters, and all the print statements on one line. The big things to take away from this are going to be string indexes and this end keyword, which is a part of the print statement. In addition, we'll also look at two different ways of doing this exact sort of thing, and hopefully you can get some stronger formatting and string manipulation skills. So let's get started. Alright. So if we were to try and get this output printed, the way we would probably want to start then is having three different variables. So I'm going to call these word1. Now here's something I want to point out. This is a new variable, and I believe we mostly just use variables that are single letters. Variables can't have multiple letters. It can be a whole word. Now one thing I'll also point out is that I have a 1 here, and that's okay. Just so you know, I can't begin a variable name with a 1, but I can end it with a 1. That would be fine. Alright, so word 1 is going to be great. Word 2 is going to be okay, with 2 exclamation marks. And word 3 is going to be Python. Alright, to start off, that's all good. I'm going to get my shell out here. Shell is when we run the actual module itself, and it'll go ahead and do this whole restart little thing. I'm not typing this in, I'm just simply hitting run, and it displays it. So first, let's just start by actually printing out all three words. It won't be spaced out like how we want it, but let's just go ahead and start off with the print statements. Alright, now let's take a look at what this actually looks like. It'll print out all three words on different lines. You see, whenever we print, print defaults to adding a new line after each input. So that means each input here puts the next one onto the next line. Now I could also tell you that the new line itself is a special kind of character that we will see later. For now though, let's go and see about how we can get rid of it. Because that's going to be our first challenge. You get all three of these print statements to print on one line. And the way it works is with the end keyword. End equals is how we adjust the end of the output. Because again, each one of these has an automatic new line at the end, and if we want to change what is at the end, I can add in something else here. For instance, if I were to put a tilde right there, and then run it, and then run it, you'd notice that there's no more new line, but there is the little tilde there. Now, for what we actually want, is we want them separated by a space, right? So I'm going to make this have a space here. And what that does, well, does the same thing as the tilde, just with a space. That end keyword is how we adjust properties about print, and we're able to better control our output. So I'm going to add it to all three of the lines here. And even though I don't actually need it on the last one, I'm still gonna add it in there, and there we are. It's perfectly what we had, right? We had a space at the end here, and here, and end here, and that's what we got. There, there, and there. Alright, so let's go and get the other parts all spread apart. And the way we're going to do this is using something called string indexes. You see, strings are actually what we call a string of characters. We have other words for this in programming, but we're not going to worry about those right now. We're just going to think about it as a string of characters. And since it's a string of characters, we would say that they have indexes. For instance, let's say I was to do word 1 and grab and add these two brackets here. This is how we access indexes of the string. And when we put an index in there, let's say 0, what we're going to do is we're going to access the index at 0. The index at 0 of any string is the very first letter or character. If this was, a percent sign or something, it would be that percent sign. We're going to keep it as the G for great. I'm going to run it. And now that we are printing out the index at 0, we are only printing out that single character of the G. And then, of course, the space at the end. Well, that already starts us off in the right place, right? Because it's not GR, it's G space. So let's make that G, and then, actually, we already have the G space, don't we? G, then space, G, then space. All I have to do is print out the next one. So I'm going to make a new print statement and print word 1 at 1. That's how I'm reading this off here. I'm reading these brackets as at, because, okay, the character at index 1, which remember, if this is 0, does it make sense then that this is 1? I'm going to add in our end. Let's go and run that, see how it looks. So far I have G space, R space, and then OK. And if we just keep that going for all 6 letters of the great with an exclamation mark, I can actually copy and paste this line a few times. It will go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And with that, I'll have printed out all 6 letters because 0 through 5 is 6. And there we are. Our very first word is aesthetically printed. So let's get that in there. Let's get the rest of it in there now. We can go ahead and do word 2 just a little differently. Word 2 at 0. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to concatenate a space and then concatenate the next character. So that way what we end up having when I run it is O space K space. And it's going to look the same as what we had back here. It's also going to look in the same format as this one is. Even having 6 characters, we're going to be able to do some very similar stuff. I'm going to keep concatenating here, like we learned in lesson 1. I'm going to just copy this whole line because I'm running out of space. By the way, you can keep typing off to the right and go all the way over there. Maybe even just expand this so you can see it. I'm not, just for the sake of appearances, but that is a possibility. Once I've done that, I now have OK all finished. And lastly, let's go and get Python in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And with that, we are actually complete with the output like how we wanted it. Boom. Looks exactly the same, right? Alright, now let's change it up a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change one of these words. Let's say I didn't want to print great, okay, Python. Maybe I wanted to change one of them to something else. Well, as long as I'm keeping the same number of characters, because, you know, this is reading for 6 characters, as long as I'm keeping the same number of characters, I can actually change any of the letters up here. Like, I can go like that instead. Save it, run it, and boom, look at that. It's a very different printout, isn't it? It's a subtle change, but it's a big change anyway. I mean, I can even do some things with it to make it even more different. For instance, what if I did hello in all caps? Well, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll bring it down to 6. Run it. And there you are. Great. Hello, Python. Yeah, changes things a little bit. And what I want to show here is just simply the fact, wrapping up here, that when we're doing this kind of string manipulation, we have things set up that we're able to change the programs running very easily. This can be combined. Perhaps let's say I want to use the input from before, have the user put in an input, which we'll see next time. But you know, have the user put in an input and read in words from the user, and based on how long they are, we could go ahead and print them out aesthetically. It could be useful to you. Maybe you want to go ahead and write some Vaporwave song titles, but you don't want to do all the spacing out yourself. This could be a program to do it for you. Alright, so that's gonna wrap up our work with the aesthetic printer. Hope you got all that. See you next time.